Hey viewers, welcome back to the channel Beautiful Awakening with Shantia. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about the Saturn return. So this is the first episode I'm starting for my new occult series where I will be talking about tarot and about astrology and anything occult related where you can use the science and the magical realms of existence to understand more about your life. So today we're going to be talking about Saturn return. So just a brief note on astrology. I've been into astrology for about 10 years. Usually that's when it hits in those teen years. You get into it, and I've been fascinated with it. I've been in and out. I waver in and out of it because I like to learn a lot from experience. That's just the way my mind works. I like to learn from my tangible experiences of just observing my life. But there's so much in astrology that is so fascinating. And today we're going to be talking specifically about the Saturn return. And I feel so drawn to talk about this because I am going through my Saturn return right now. So the Saturn return is something you go through from the period of 27 to 31 years of age. And we're going to go ahead and talk about and kind of break it down, like Saturn return, what does it mean? What does it signify? Most of my knowledge is intuitive based. So I learn from my own experiences, I learn from observing people, and I learn from just picking up an understanding of energies. That's just the way my mind works. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about what Saturn would represent. Saturn to me is a representation of structure, discipline. It delays things. It's the slowest and it's the largest moving planet. So it moves slow, but it's the largest moving planet, which means even though it takes time to build things, right, to build an empire, the reward is huge. The windfall is huge. So Saturn, wherever it's sitting in your chart, it will ask you to be much more structured in those areas. There's a focus of structure, discipline, and delay. So if you become structured and disciplined in those areas of your chart, wherever it's sitting and aspecting, then it will reward you generously, like a king. So I think it's a beautiful time. I used to be afraid of certain transits in my chart and fearful of, oh no, a transit's coming. I'm not ready for this. But I realized when you work with the energy, because it's calling for you, everything in your chart is activated. It's calling for you to wake up. It's calling for you to tune into your natural gifts. And so everything in your chart, including Saturn, is a blessing. So there's no need to be fearful of Saturn. If you become structured and disciplined in those areas, and with grace, you respect its delay, then it will reward you. So Saturn aspects the third house from itself. By the way, let me just go ahead and return back to this. I'm into Vedic astrology. That's what I follow. That's the image I'm seeing in my mind, what I'm looking at where Saturn's aspecting. I do not follow Western astrology. I was into it at first, but I became obsessed with Vedic astrology. So Vedic astrology or sidereal astrology is kind of what some people like to follow. So Saturn aspects third from itself, seventh from itself, and it also aspects 10th from itself. So wherever it's aspecting, it will reward you, and it can reward you if you're willing to build structure in your life. So it may delay those areas up until you're, going through your Saturn return. It may delay abundance in those areas of life, which, after the age of 30, that's when you would want to hit abundance, right? Is when you've learned how to be structured and disciplined with handling money, responsibilities, and all of those things. The darker, shadowy side of Saturn is if you do not become structured and disciplined in those areas, if you don't handle it, the pressure of it with grace, it will kind of kick your butt. It will, because it asks for you to answer to the higher calling of your purpose, of who you are. So if you're in denial, wherever it's aspecting or sitting in your chart, if you're in denial honestly about anything in your life, because Saturn in general is about discipline and structure, if you're not paying attention, you're not being authentic in certain areas of your life, you might want to take that moment if you're going through a Saturn return or if your Saturn return is coming up to start to ask yourself who you really are or what you really want and be honest about that. Because wherever you're not being truly authentic it's going to put pressure on you. So, for example, for me, that really called to me in my life purpose. It aspects houses where creativity, it's huge around aspecting creativity, and it's directly connected to my creative purpose. It's directly connected to my relationships. So any area where I'm not disciplined with relationships, if I'm not authentic in my partnerships, if I'm not authentic with what I'm making or creating in this world, it'll put extra pressure on me. So it will put the pressure on you. But the thing is, the pressure will not be nearly as bad if you work with the energies, because life is always about flow. And if you're willing to go with the flow of life, it will reward you because you're not going against the stream. You're not going against, you're going the path of least resistance. So Saturn, yes, it calls for you to do a lot, but if you plan it and prepare and you structure your life and you plan, sorry, I said that twice. If you plan, prepare, and structure your life, you get prepared for things. Let's say Saturn always calls for you to be a king. It always does. It calls for you to be more and do more of yourself. It's going to call for you, if you're hiding, it's going to call for you to come out of hiding. It's going to call for you to take on more responsibilities. So if you're in denial and you're pushing against those areas of your life where you're not wanting to be responsible, you're not wanting to see the truth of it, it's going to continue to put on that pressure onto you. So work with the flow of the energy. Wherever it's sitting in your placements, your chart, look at that house and see what it represents. So the first house is the house of self. So that might be becoming disciplined about how you take care of yourself, your body. Second house is family, values, your money, your immediate family that you were born into, your relationship, your karmic relationship with them. Third house would be your community network of people. It would be your siblings, also be anything, any kind of endeavor where you're creative and just kind of spontaneous with creating and making things and doing things in your life. It also, the third house is the house of communication. So you might need to become more disciplined with how you communicate things to people. Fourth house is a house of your home life, becoming structured around your home life and your comforts. Fifth house is the house of children, so your children, or it could be school. So fifth house represents like college. So if you're going to school or you're pursuing a degree, this is a really great time for you to use that energy to become a lot more disciplined and focused on what you're doing. Fifth house is the house of romance and creativity as well. So your connections, your dating life is impacted. Um, Anything you're making and doing and generating. It's just it's a very like I guess you could say sexual creative house. So any area where you're feeling like really creative, you're generating art. Um, you want to become a lot more disciplined and structured with that. Sixth house is the house of your health, as well as the house of your job and like not your career. 10th house is more career, but sixth house is your job. So your daily routines, your day-to-day life, you need to become really structured around that. Returning back to the first house, I said it was a house of your health and yourself and your body, but the first house, if you have Saturn in the first house, it really does impact every part of your chart in every sense of the word, because it's how you come into this world. How are you just kind of like, is your energy just flailing around, or are you focusing it? Seventh house is a house of partnerships and connections, and contracts. So anything like if you work for a business or you're contractually connected to a business in any way, it's typically a marriage partner because it represents contracts. So anyone who you're close to, you work in partnership with. It's also the house of the masses. So if you work in a business, for example, and you have customers, seventh house would be a good representation of that. Eighth house is a representation of hidden things, hidden wealth, hidden, just anything hidden. So like the deep, it's going to call for you to really dig deep. Deep subconscious fears, the depth of life. If you have any kind of eighth house placements, you're usually really curious about the hidden aspects of life. So becoming really structured or disciplined or connected to that in a way that's really healthy. It's also connected to great wealth because it is connected to, it's originally ruled by Scorpio, which can be about sudden wealth. Scorpio is the height of materialism, whereas Capricorn is the height of materialism plus status. But Scorpio is the height of materialism. If you have any kind of Scorpio placements, that's a placement for when you want to obtain the most amount of like wealth and material comforts, the car, the house, everything, the money. ninth house is it's also about intellect, philosophy, schooling, but it's like that higher knowledge. So it's like college and beyond. College and beyond. It's like worldly knowledge as well as foreign lands. So if you have any kind of ninth house placement, you would do really well in foreign lands, and being very disciplined around that area. It's also the house of religion. So I feel like people who have Saturn in the ninth house tend to be really connected to their or wanting to partake in religion. So it can make you like a priest or something, like a very high status when it comes to religion. It could be about any kind of study. So if you're studying something like a deeply philosophical topic about the world, it's a really good placement for becoming very disciplined in that area and rewarding you if you're getting a certificate, you're getting like a PhD or something. When I think of ninth house, I think of, because I know Angelina Jolie has ninth house placements. Um, Actually, yeah, my sister too. She has really strong ninth house placements. There's a strong need to connect with like foreign countries or foreign lands, or helping people of lesser, and helping them in a way that is very humanitarian. Is that the right way to use that word? The 10th house is a house of status. So I know sometimes people think of it as the fame house or the wealth house or whatever. It can be all of those things, but it's like the highest status. So when I think of the 10th house, I think a good honestly, anyone famous. A lot of those people have 10th house placements. Barack Obama has a moon in 10th house. And Princess Diana had a Rahu, which I think she had her son there too, in the 10th house. So the strong sense of like status, like notoriety, it'll make you very popular depending on your placements. Like a Leo would become very popular with a 10th house placement there. But that's like very disciplined with like bigger status. So like the biggest masses, the highest stage of all, becoming very disciplined in that area. And 11th house is also the house of wealth, comforts, like, yeah, so it's the house of wealth. It's also the house of networking and connecting to like a broader network of people. So typically, whereas third house is the house of like your immediate community, the 11th house is a broader network. So it could be like people across from the world, all over the world, a huge network of people. If you have a strong 11th house, it can be very powerful in terms of you building status in your life. And then the 12th house is the house of subconscious. I used to think, is the 12th house very useful? I have 12th house placements. So 12th house is extremely powerful because it's connected to the ether of everything. This is where you get a lot of knowledge, intuitive knowledge, and then you get a lot of intuitive downloads about spirituality. It's the dream house, the spiritual house. So it's a very powerful house, also for foreign lands as well. If you want to be successful in a foreign country that you were born, that you were not born in, if you want to manifest, it's actually a really good house for manifesting because it's such a dreamy house, but you have to have other grounding placements to be able to maintain it as well. So it's a very dreamer aspect. Like if you want to create anything of the dreaming realm, you can do those projects and kind of get structured around that, maybe structure around your dreams in general, as well as like subconscious. It's really powerful for obtaining spiritual knowledge. So those are all of the houses. If you have Saturn in any of those houses or aspecting 3rd, 7th, or 10th from itself, it's going to activate those energies. So take a look at that in your chart and just see in what areas do you need to become disciplined. But the secret is you always got free will. You always got free will, and all the planets want to work with you, not against you. Everything's for your highest good. So find a way, if there's any area of your life, you don't even have to look at your chart, where you feel like you're not being authentic or true to yourself, you're not being honest about what you want, or energetically it's not flowing, it's not organized, it's kind of falling apart, there's no foundation, it keeps crumbling. Start to ask yourself, how can I build a stronger foundation? Because Saturn is also a representation of the bones in the body. So it's very important for creating a long-term structures. It's without it, nothing would stand the test of time. So think about what structures keep falling apart in your life, or what structures can be stronger or made stronger in your life through better effort, more effort in this area. And just like all the planets in the chart, they're all for your highest good. They all want to reward you and bless you. And Saturn, even though it does ask for a lot of structure and discipline, and it will delay things and it will cause struggle and strife, it will reward you the biggest. Okay. Feel free to check out any of my other series. I have a lot of different series that I'm starting on this channel because I'm so happy to be here sharing this knowledge and to be here with you. And I'm hoping that it's helping you in some way. Again, if you're interested in coaching with me, look down in the description box. On this channel, it's dedicated to your transformation and your alignments. So I talk about healing. I talk about tapping into your limitless expression of yourself. Anything where you feel like you can just work on yourself, doing the inner work, but also doing the outer work to create the life that you so deserve and you so desire. Okay, so to end this video, I wanted to go ahead and do something a little different. I'm doing this in some of my other series as well. I'm going to go ahead and just slightly ding my singing bowl, and then I'm going to pull a card from the Oracle deck so we can get some guidance from my guides towards you, the collective. I'm pulling a card from the Angels and Ancestors Oracle card deck here. I'm sure you guys have seen this if you're into pick a card readings. Okay, so guides, what guidance do you have for our lovely... Okay, that one kind of flipped out really quick, so we'll take that one. What guidance do you have for our lovely collective here today? Okay. So, wow, I love my guides. They're so straightforward. Like, my guides are very straight up. I will talk about something and it'll be like that, and then I'll ask a question and they'll literally just like direct message. They don't play around. So the first card we got is "You Are Not Alone," Guardian Angel. So actually in a future video, I'm hoping to talk about guides and how I've learned to work with my guides these past few years. Before it was just prayer and God and journaling, but I've learned to work with my guides, and we have a wonderful relationship. Which, just like anything else in this world, your guides are there for your highest good. So they want you to get all your blessings. So the guides want you to know you are not alone. You're not alone. So I think maybe Saturn also, it is a planet where you feel deprived sometimes of pleasures because it does delay certain good things. But I always say wherever you go, you take yourself with you. If you learn how to cultivate joy within yourself, you'll never feel like you're starving of it elsewhere. Or you don't need to get in a relationship to band-aid. You won't get in a relationship and use it as a band-aid, or use a career as a band-aid, or a child as a band-aid. You'll understand that inner work, that inner truth, and connection to your inner being is the most important thing. So you are not alone. You're being guided. Okay, so the next message is Shield Maiden, make plans and focus. What was I talking about this entire video? So make your plans and focus on wherever areas in your life you need to feel structured. Just start grab a sheet of paper or grab your notebook or your journal and just start making a list of things you need to get done and accomplished. And break it down. Get a planner. I was never a planner user until last year, but I'm like, once I start writing things on bullet points, I just get them done. So it's really as simple as that. All right, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day or evening, and I will be back with another episode next week. Thank you guys so much. Bye.